Lately, I've been hearing from men within the red pill community say that monogamy will not work. And the reason they give for this is that men naturally want multiple women. It's in our biology. And while I don't necessarily disagree with that statement, I don't think that polygamy or polyamory is the answer for us either. And the reason for that is that women are hypergamous. And so what that's going to lead to is the top 10% of men hogging up all the women. And I was going to break down this information, but then I came across a great video by Chris Williamson titled "Having Lots of Single Men is Very Dangerous for Society." So we're going to go over that video, and I think it really explains the problems that we would run into if we lived in a polygamous society.
I read in The Moral Animal by Robert Wright about how monogamy is a sexual redistribution strategy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so this really fascinated me. The fact that if you have one man with many women, you allow one particular man to capture most of the market. Whereas if you have one man with one woman, you actually end up allowing man number 2 to get woman number 2. Whereas previously he would have been looking at woman number 11 because women 1 to 10 would have been with man number 1. And that kind of explains, I think, some of the resentment that you see in the black pill culture and in the incel culture around these chads, these high-value men that are able to sleep with many women, because they see them as tying up available women's reproduction potential during fertile years when they could have been dating other people, and also, how would you say, kind of bunching up the line, moving the queue tighter and tighter together, in a way which has trickle-down effect that has potentially competed them out of the dating market.
Absolutely. So these black bull guys will, as the meme goes, they hate Chad and Stacy. And it's funny you mentioned that because you are correct. So, and the researcher, I forget the name that you mentioned.
Robert Wright is the book.
Robert Wright, yes, entirely correct, I think, in that monogamy in the grand scheme of things is probably a newer concept, a newer thing that's come about. It was never the case in antiquity that we engage in monogamy. It was typically polygamous, right? We had harems and such. And I do think that there is an argument to be made about returning to that, specifically when we talk about imbalances in the sexual marketplace with a small percentage of men hogging a large percentage of women. So if we look at Tinder data, for example, it's, most of the men on Tinder, of the profiles they come across, females, they'll swipe right on 60% of them. When it comes to females, they'll only swipe right on 4.5% of them. So that is a massive imbalance just on Twitter usage. And that is even compounded by the fact that 78% of individuals that use Tinder are male. And so 22% of people that use Tinder are female, which means of the demographic, of the smallest demographic in terms of gender, the vast majority of these women are being selected by the vast majority of men. And the opposite is not true for females.
And so what they're explaining here is a huge imbalance within our society. And they use statistics from dating apps to kind of back that up. And I've done a whole video talking about how men should really not use dating apps because the odds are extremely against you unless you're extremely handsome or have a lot of money. Otherwise, those dating apps will not work because all the women are going for the top men. And, we also see examples of this in the club, right? You see all the fine, beautiful women in the VIP section, and all the regular guys are stuck with the gorillas and Sasquatches. You know what I'm saying? So we already see examples of men, trying to hog up all of the women. And as far as I can tell, the only thing that is stopping them is women's refusal to be one of many.
Dude, I've just realized the implication of what you're saying, and I've never thought of this before. I think about this shit a lot, right? I've read everything that you've read. I've read a lot of stuff around red pill and black pill. And I've only just realized that one of the potential solutions to this is to go back to a polygamous culture. Because if women can't get rid of their hypergamous nature, if we can't raise men's level of competition up in order to be able to match the women, one of the solutions to make fewer people overall be single is to have many women with one man at the top and then just leave the men at the bottom to be cast away. That's fucking terrifying.
That's terrifying. And it's not what we want to do. That is a recipe for disaster. That is a recipe for social upheaval and just societal disintegration if men are simply cast aside because they're inadequate.
Fuck. But that's the case at the moment. That's the case at the moment with it being non-polygamous.
Non-polygamous, correct. So imagine a society like China, where there is a massive gender imbalance based off of the one-child policy that they initiated, centuries back. And now looking at the modern sexual dynamics, what do you think is going to come of that society in 50 to 100 years? If our hypotheses here are correct and this plays its course?
Are you talking about if you have one man with many women?
Yes. So in essence, so as we just pointed out, it's that polygamous setup where it's one man with many women, and the rest of these men who are incapable of attaining a sexual partner are being left in the dust.
And that is the real scary thing about going to a polygamous society, having a large group of men just being cast to the side. And I don't think a polygamous society would raise the competition between men, because the competition has always been crazy. It's always been tough. And so what I think will actually happen is more men joining MGTOW, men going their own way, because a lot of men are going to quickly realize that there's no way that they can compete with these Chads and these guys with a lot of money. And what that's going to lead to is, if you hated these Chads and rich guys before, you're really going to hate them when you see them with 4 or 5 women and you're struggling just to get one. Now that we're in a monogamous society, once Chad picks, that one woman, now he's taken off the market. So that leaves the other women available for us regular guys.
So I never thought of the fact that a potential solution, and I'm going to guess there'll be a utilitarian rationalist out there who would say that this is actually an optimal outcome as long as you can control this underclass of sexless men.
Yes.
That you actually end up reducing the number of people overall that are single by doing this. But you very, very much create a bifurcated society. You have the haves and the have-nots, and the Matthew principle comes out with this as well. So, I mean, as an example, I think Robert Wright explains, I can't remember, it was in 1994 he wrote this book, man. It's so prescient, it's amazing. And but at the time, maybe the richest man was like Warren Buffett or something. It's like a really unsexy example. And he talks about the fact that you could have the richest man in the world that's worth however many billion, and he could fund the lives using money as a proxy for resources, which is one of the fundamental things that women want from a man. He would be able to fund like 10,000 women's lives the same as one millionaire. And when you think about that, you go, well, okay, obviously women want more than just monetary access. They actually want emotional control, emotional connection. They want to be able to feel like they're part of a working capacity family, and so on and so forth. But when you think about it like that, and if the choice is between being completely single as a woman as you get into your 30s, or being one of many with a man who can look after you because he's one of these super earners with all of the resources and all of the status, I don't know. I don't know how tempting that ends up sounding.
Incredibly tempting, I would assume, because it's the prospect of being funded, pretty much winning the lottery ticket when it comes to these Warren Buffett types, and having to raise children with a man that you're not necessarily attracted to, or even happy with. That doesn't necessarily provide the sort of life that you want.
Well, the third option is obviously to continue leading a solo ranger life, and I think that from a utilitarian perspective, it would why isn't everyone in a relationship with Elon Musk? Like, I should be in a relationship with Elon Musk.
He's being a bit facetious here, but Elon Musk could easily have 1,000 wives, a la King Solomon, if women are okay with sharing one man. And to me, that would be horrible, because then we would have 999 less available women for us regular guys to choose from. And that's terrible. But obviously, there's no way that would be feasible in today's society. Like, let's just look at Chris Brown, for example. Chris Brown is tall, handsome, can sing, can dance, everything you want in a man, boom, right there in one package. He can have pretty much any woman he wants. And Karrueche still left his ass. Why? Because she doesn't want to be part of his harem. And I don't know who she dates after Chris Brown, but she's willing to date down or go elsewhere so she can be with a man who is loyal and treats her special. And some of you may argue that these top men, they're only going to go for the top women, but that's not necessarily true. We've established plenty of times on this channel that men are more than willing to date down. Add that to the fact that there are men who care about quantity over quality. These men aren't just taking the dimes. They're taking the 9s, the 8s, and if they're feeling greedy, they might take the 7s as well. And so what that's going to do is lead to this trickle-down effect to where if you're a guy who is a 6 and below, it's over for you. You're pretty much gonna die alone at that point. And right now we're seeing on the news these men who are shooting up stores and schools. A lot of these guys are incels. Guys who were unable to make connections with the opposite sex, and they were cast aside. And when that happens to men, they build up this hate in their heart, this aggression, not just towards, you know, the Chads and women, but to all of society. And you can see them taking out that aggression on the world. And although there will always be people who struggle to connect with the opposite sex, monogamy helps equally distribute the available candidates that you can choose from, right? So when this Chad selects a woman, now he's off the market. And although there's still 4 or 5 women who still want that same guy, they can't choose him now because he's selected a woman. And now they have no choice but to look elsewhere, or start looking at us regular guys, because they couldn't get a Chad. And so now you have a shot. And I want to establish that this is not an anti-polygamy campaign, but I want to give pause to what you men are asking for. When you think about polygamy, you think about having a harem, you think about being able to sleep with multiple women, you think about your needs being met. But what about meeting the needs of multiple women? You have to meet their demands. And I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking emotionally as well. And you may be able to take care of 2 or 3 women. But what if those women want to have kids? Now you have to take care of them and their kids. And you have to be an active participant in these kids' lives. You know, some men can do this, but it's not easy work. For some men, it's, you know, twice the blessing. For other men, it's twice the headache. And of course, there's an argument for never getting married and just going from woman to woman for the rest of your life. I have a video called Why Bother Getting Married? Please watch that. It breaks down why it's better to get married versus being out here in these streets, because these streets are ugly. So take my advice, find a good woman, and lock her down. That's all I got for you guys. Let me know what you thought of the video. What points did you agree with? What points did you disagree with? Leave your comments below and let me know what you thought. And if you got anything out this video, hit that like button. This is Agree to Disagree. I'm out.